So, if you remember, right, an array really just is a list of items, if you will, that keeps track of a list of items. So what I'm going to do is create a new little program today, and it's going to be an array of strings, which I did not do previously. So I'm going to call this array strings. I'm going to call it name because I'm going to have an array of names. Is what I'm going to have. And I'm going to create a new string array, and I'm going to, in this one, do something a little bit tricky. And remember, I could declare how long it is. I could say 5. So this is going to contain 5 strings. I have not entered any strings at all. So currently with strings, it's going to, the memory is called null. It's empty. There's no numbers. There's no numbers. It's a string. But what I'm going to do in this one is I'm going to keep track of people, if you will. And I'm going to keep track of, let's just say, actually I changed my mind here. I'm going to keep track of 6 students. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep track of what their grades are. So I need to keep track of how many students there are, and I'm going to go int num students, and I'm going to actually set that equal to 6 because I'm going to keep track of 6 students. So actually down here with my string creation, I can take that 6 out and I can put num students there, and that then is a total of 6. And the reason I would do that is because later in a larger scale program, if I wanted num students, if I wouldn't have to go through my code, like 7 pages of code. I wouldn't want to go through and change all of the 6s to 7s. I would just want to go to the top here and change this to a 7, because now my whole program is working with 7 people instead of 6 people. That would be much more efficient. So I create an integer of 7, and that number is going to control how big my array is here. So I have my name array. Now I also have to create another integer array, and I'm going to call it grade. And I'm going to create a new integer array, and the length of that array is also going to be equal to the number of students. So as you can tell, I basically have set up 2 arrays. One array keeps track of names of people. The other array keeps track of grades for those people. Now these are actually called parallel arrays because they're intended to be side by side. It's like a grade book, if you will. It's like a spreadsheet. It's keeping track of names in one, and it's keeping track of their grades in another. Index 0 in both refers to the same person, name, grade, if you will. Index 1 refers to the same person, name, grade. And so they're parallel arrays because they're actually 2 different arrays, but they're kind of tied together. Okay, they're linked together, if you will. So I have that. Now what I want to do is I could fill them actually pretty quickly. Now remember from yesterday, if I just wanted to fill names right now, I could simply come up here and just create an array with 7 names if I want. Now I know 7 is going to get kind of long. And names will be, I'll start with my dog name. So Ranger, let's just go with 3 to save time here. Ranger, I have 3 dogs. Rico and Gabby. All right, there's my 3 dogs right there. Now my dogs apparently are earning grades, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to give them grades. And they're integer grades, so they need to be numbers. Now instead of me just creating the list like I did here, or creating the whole array right there, I want to review for loops because that's important. Very important with arrays is that you know how to use and utilize for loops. So I'll use a for loop to give each dog a grade, if you will. And if you remember correctly, I would start with my counter, I equals 0. And I do want, in arrays, I really almost always want my array my counter to start with 0. Because remember, the index number starts with 0 in an array. So I want to start with that first item in the array. And then I want I is less than 3, and I'll change that here in a second. And I need to increment I. And what I want to do is I want to assign a grade. The question is, what kind of grade do I want to give them? Well, I will give them, let's see, I want the grade, remember that's the array, the grade I. So that's basically saying grade at index I I is my counter, so it's going to start with 0. It's going to start with grade 0, the initial element, equals, maybe I just create some kind of formula. I'm going to make this formula I plus 20 times 3. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them a grade. Now, what is their grade going to be? There's going to be 3 grades spit out. The first dog, which by the way is Ranger, if I could calculate Ranger's grade right now, he's going to be index 0. And when I is 0, I go through here, it's 0 plus 20 is 20, times 3 is 60. So his grade is going to be 60. And then it's going to loop back up to the top, increment, and say, okay, I is 1. Well, it's 21 times 3, so Rico's grade is going to be 63. By the way, it's just a linear formula for math people. And then Gabby's formula is going to be 2 plus 20 is 22 times 3 is 66. So it's going to be 60, 63, 66. It's going to dump those numbers in to that array. Now, I would like to print it just to verify that that's what I've done and that I understand that I've done it correctly. And the way that, one of the ways we're going to cycle through an array to print it is another for loop with the counter and I is less than 3 and I plus plus, because I'm just going to loop through every element in the array, and I'm going to output grade dot I because I want to print it. And then remember, we like to add the spacings in here just so that we can see that we don't have 2-digit numbers. If I'd like to see an array as a list going across the screen, I don't use println, I just use print. And I'll run this. So what it should do is it's going to create 2 arrays for me. They're called parallel arrays in this program because they're meant to be tied together. Index 1 in the first array and index 1 in the second array actually have meaning together. So they're parallel. They run side by side. So I run this just to verify that I really did get the, there we go, 60, 63, 66. Okay. Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe I also would like to print the dogs' names because right now the 60, 63, 66 doesn't really tell me what's going on. So in this print statement, what I would want to do is actually, remember, in a for loop, if I'm going to have more than one line, I need to make sure that I use my brackets here. And so I'll do another output statement. I want these in one line. And this time I'm going to print name because I want the dog's name to appear here. And understand right now, I have no enter being hit. So that's a little bit different. There's no, if I run this thing, see what's going to happen here. I get Ranger 60, Rico 63, Gabby 66. Now that's not all bad because actually they're assigned. And so maybe it would be nice for me to throw in an equal sign here like this. And that way it might make a little more sense. And I can throw in some more spaces just for formatting's sake. And now, oh yeah, there we go. That makes sense. I have it nicely formatted. Depending on how you like that, maybe you'd prefer to have it formatted differently with each dog on one line. And that's as simple as just adding a blank print line statement if you want. And then if I run this, now I would actually have them on one line each. And that maybe is most readable for people. It's a matter of just formatting. That's not the only way to do it, but that's actually a pretty nice way to do that. So I actually have 2 arrays running down this list. The Ranger Rico Gabby is one array, and the 60, 63, 66 is technically another array. 2 different arrays running side by side that have meaning together.